everybody lays claim to Rumi, everybody reads Rumi. So I thought, okay, how can I explore this within a work and try to understand how spiritualism is experienced by different kinds of people? My name is Erdem Taşdelen. I am a Turkish-Canadian visual artist working across media, including installations, video, audio, and sculpture. I was born in Turkey, and I moved to Switzerland at the age of 1 and lived there for about 3 years, and then moved back to Turkey, lived in Germany for another 3 years, and then I immigrated to Canada in 2008. I think the fact that I was introduced to so many different cultures at an early age made me curious about different people and different kinds of experiences. I can't say that I am not someone who's affected by all of the polarization in the world. I definitely am. And making art is one of the ways in which I try to resolve this, the way that I understand other people and how I coexist alongside them and get them to try to think about how they coexist with me at the same time. So in a sense, I'm doing all of this because I haven't resolved it, and I have all of these mixed emotions about people who may not necessarily believe in my right to exist. I would say I am an artist whose practice kind of oscillates between literature and visual art. Most of my projects begin with writing and involve writing, and I'm always thinking about how to transform writing into different forms to be experienced in installations, in different formats. I would never want to be an artist who does one thing and gets stuck in that one thing. I'm not really interested in excelling, I'm more interested in exploring. Rumi is a really interesting figure for me and has always been. His poetry really became popular in the West through translations of Coleman Barks. What I understand is that he took a lot of the Islamic context out of the poetry, which in some ways, of course, makes it devoid of its original significance, but at the same time, it opens it up to so many different kinds of people who don't necessarily know anything about Islam either. When I started to think about Rumi as a cultural icon, what I realized is that in a lot of cases, people actually saw him as this signifier that they could project their own spiritualism onto. So I thought what I would do is I would write an audio drama that involves 4 characters, each of whom are waking up from a dream in which they've had some sort of transcendental, mystical, spiritual experience, and they start to slowly remember the details of these dreams and share them with one another. And over time, we begin to understand that these narratives, these stories overlap in some ways. So entering into the space, you see these 4 different platforms, on top of which are the objects that relate to the characters that I wrote. The speakers all play a different character. So if you're sitting in the middle of the space over here, basically you have sound coming at you from all directions. One of the characters represents spirituality through creativity and what they're writing.
All we ever want in the end is to tell a good story. A fine story that soothes your throat like sweet honey.
One of them represents spirituality through love and intuition.
I'm intoxicated by a substance I can neither taste nor see.
One of them is talking about togetherness and collective experiences.
All together at the same time, they raise their heads and they break into a buoyant song. They sing to me.
And finally, the 4th one is looking at spiritualism as a way of fashioning the self and projecting one's sense of self to the outer world.
So please join me on this epic journey by subscribing to my channel.
So it's an immersive installation that you're walking into, you're listening to the audio, and then you're also looking at all of these objects, trying to understand how to make sense of them. I made a decision early on not to talk about the symbolism or the specificities of the objects because I want to keep that potential open. What I want people to do is to come into the space, sit, look around, try to absorb these stories a little bit and see what resonates with them. One of the things that I wanted to do with this was to suggest that we have all of these profound experiences in the world, whether we call them spiritual or not. These are very individual experiences, but at the same time, we're all human and we experience them collectively in some way as well. So we might be, sitting beside one another, not necessarily speaking about this, but we are experiencing something similar, even if we're fundamentally different in our beliefs and in the ways that we live. These experiences should be framed around the notion of openness and love rather than hostility and rigidity. When I encounter a wonderful work of art or literature, I have this profound experience of goosebumps and being shaken to my core. For me, that is spirituality.